The quantum sensors aboard the ESS Pathfinder picked up the signal during a routine survey of the Kuiper Belt. At first, Lieutenant Sarah Chen dismissed it as another icebound comet, but something about the regularity of the emissions caught her attention. 3 hours later, she stood before the United Earth Defense Council, her hand steady as she manipulated the holographic display. "The beacon is approximately 3 billion years old," she explained, watching the faces of the assembled military and civilian leaders. "And it's not just sending a signal, it's sending a warning." Admiral James Rodriguez leaned forward, his weathered face illuminated by the soft blue glow of the holograms. "A warning about what, Lieutenant?" "The hegemony." Sarah brought up a series of translated glyphs. "According to the beacon, they're a species that emerges every few billion years, consuming all advanced civilizations in their path. The previous galactic civilization placed these beacons as a warning to future species." The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity had only achieved faster-than-light travel 30 years ago, and now they faced an existential threat that had destroyed countless civilizations before them. "How long do we have?" The question came from Dr. Marcus Wong, Earth's leading quantum physicist. "Based on the beacon's astronomical data and our current models, they'll reach our galaxy in approximately 20 years. Sarah paused, then added, "But here's the interesting part. They don't simply destroy civilizations. They assess them first, looking for signs of advanced technology. If a civilization appears primitive enough, they ignore it until later harvests." Admiral Rodriguez's eyes narrowed. "You're suggesting we hide?" "No, sir." Sarah's voice was firm. "I'm suggesting we prepare, in secret. The beacon contains fragments of technical data from the previous civilization. They were too focused on direct confrontation, but we have something they didn't. Time to prepare and the knowledge of their tactics." Over the next 15 years, humanity underwent the greatest technological revolution in its history, all hidden beneath a carefully maintained facade of normal development. The quantum fold drive, capable of bending space in ways that made traditional FTL travel look primitive, was developed in underground facilities on Mars. Neural link weapon systems, allowing pilots to control their ships with thought alone, were perfected in the ice caves of Europa. But humanity's greatest achievement was the development of the Phantom Tech protocols, technology specifically designed to appear less advanced than it actually was. Every human ship, every station, every piece of technology was built with 2 layers: the visible facade that any observer would detect, and the true capabilities hidden beneath. When the first hegemony scout ships entered the solar system, they found exactly what they expected: a young civilization just beginning to explore their local space. They observed Earth's primitive fusion drives, basic shield technology, and early attempts at faster-than-light travel. Their scans detected nothing of the vast fleet hidden in quantum-folded space, or the weapon systems that could target them through multiple dimensions. Sarah, now Captain Chen, stood on the bridge of the ESS Shadowblade, watching the hegemony scouts through sensors that they couldn't even detect. Beside her, Admiral Rodriguez's hologram flickered. "They've taken the bait," she reported. "Their scan patterns match exactly what the beacon predicted. They're looking for quantum signature drives, plasma containment fields, all the technology they expect advanced civilizations to have, and finding nothing but what appears to be a Type 1 civilization." Rodriguez finished. "Excellent. Maintain observation protocols. Let's see what our friends do next." The hegemony ships continued their survey, completely unaware that they were being watched not just by the Shadowblade, but by hundreds of hidden sensors and ships throughout the solar system. Every transmission they sent, every scan they performed, every piece of data they collected was intercepted and analyzed by Earth's quantum AI networks. In the depths of Titan Command, Dr. Wong studied the incoming data with growing satisfaction. "Their technology hasn't fundamentally changed in over 10 million years," he reported to the Defense Council. "They've refined it, certainly, but they've had no real innovation. They've never needed to, until now. The council chambers echoed with quiet conversation as the implications became clear. Humanity's greatest advantage wasn't just their hidden technology. It was their ability to adapt, to innovate, to think in ways that the hegemony, with their millions of years of unchallenged dominance, had forgotten. As the hegemony scouts finished their survey and prepared to depart, Captain Chen allowed herself a small smile. They would report back to their masters about the primitive civilization they'd found, recommend it for later harvesting when its technology had developed further. They had no idea they were looking at humanity's carefully crafted illusion, or that they had just sealed their own fate. The real war wouldn't begin for another 5 years, but its outcome had already been determined. Humanity would not only survive, they would reshape the galaxy itself. And it all began here, with a warning from the distant past and the patience to build something unprecedented. A civilization that appeared primitive but harbored power beyond anything that hegemony could imagine. "Send word to all commands," Admiral Rodriguez ordered. "Operation Phantom Shield is proceeding exactly as planned. When they return, we'll be ready." The hegemony scouts vanished into FTL, carrying their report of yet another easy conquest back to their masters. Behind them, hidden in the quantum fold, humanity's true fleet continued to grow, preparing for the day when the hunters would discover what it meant to become the hunted. The hegemony diplomatic vessel emerged from hyperspace with all the subtlety of a supernova. Its crystalline hull reflected the sun's light in dazzling patterns, a deliberate display of technological superiority, meant to awe the primitive civilization they had come to study more closely. Commander Elena Martinez watched from the observation deck of the Lunar Research Station, her expression carefully crafted to show just the right mixture of wonder and apprehension. Behind her, hidden quantum sensors recorded every detail of the alien ship's architecture and energy signatures. "They're hailing us on standard electromagnetic frequencies," reported Dr. David Chen, their xenolinguistics expert. "Very thoughtful of them to use such primitive communication methods." Elena suppressed a smile. The hegemony's courtesy in using radio waves was yet another sign of their insufferable superiority complex. They had no idea that humanity had mastered quantum entanglement communication decades ago, or that their every transmission was being intercepted and analyzed by AIs operating in dimensional spaces their sensors couldn't even detect. "Let's give them the welcome they expect," Elena commanded, adjusting her outdated uniform. The diplomatic reception had been planned for months, every detail calculated to reinforce the hegemony's preconceptions. The alien delegation materialized in Luna Station's main hall, their crystalline environment suits glittering under the artificial lights. High Emissary Crystal stepped forward, his translator converting his harmonic speech into Earth standard. "Greetings, young ones. The eternal hegemony extends its benevolent attention to your developing civilization. We have come to offer guidance and protection as you take your first steps into the galactic community." Elena bowed slightly, playing her role perfectly. "We are honored by your presence, High Emissary. Earth United welcomes the opportunity to learn from such an advanced civilization." Over the next several weeks, the hegemony delegation toured Earth's most advanced facilities. They observed fusion reactors that would have been cutting edge a century ago, studied spacecraft that used conventional propulsion systems, and examined defense installations that would have impressed a civilization from humanity's 21st century. What they didn't see were the quantum fold shipyards hidden throughout the Kuiper Belt, where humanity's true fleet grew larger every day. They never detected the Neuralink training facilities buried deep beneath Mars' surface, where pilots learned to control their ships with thought alone. And they remained completely unaware of Project Oracle, the vast network of predictive AIs that analyzed their every move and updated humanity's defense strategies in real time. In the secure chambers of the Defense Council, Admiral Rodriguez reviewed the latest intelligence. "They've planted 17 surveillance devices so far," he reported, his hologram flickering slightly. "All exactly where we predicted they would, all transmitting exactly what we want them to see." Dr. Wong nodded, manipulating a holographic display of the solar system. Their technology is remarkably consistent with the warning beacon's data. They haven't innovated significantly in millions of years. They haven't needed to, until now. The hegemony's surveillance devices dutifully reported back to their masters. They recorded human scientists struggling with basic quantum mechanics problems that Earth had solved decades ago. They watched Earth's most advanced ships lumber through space using fusion drives, while humanity's true vessels slipped silently through quantum-folded space all around them. But the hegemony's most significant oversight was their failure to recognize the true purpose of Earth's neural link research. They observed what appeared to be crude experiments in human-machine interfaces, dismissing them as primitive attempts to match the hegemony's own crystalline technology. They never realized that humanity had already achieved something far more sophisticated: direct quantum entanglement between human consciousness and artificial intelligence. Captain Sarah Chen, now commanding the stealth vessel ESS Nightweaver, demonstrated this capability during a classified training exercise in the Oort cloud. Her consciousness merged seamlessly with her ship's AI, their combined awareness extending across multiple dimensional planes. The technology wasn't just an interface. It was a true synthesis of human intuition and machine processing power. "The hegemony's arrogance is our greatest advantage," she reported afterward. "They're so convinced of their superiority that they never consider the possibility of a completely different technological approach." As the diplomatic mission drew to a close, High Emissary Crickstall delivered his final assessment to the Earth United Council. "Your civilization shows promise, but you are still young. The hegemony will continue to monitor your development. When you have reached an appropriate level of advancement, we will welcome you into our grand alliance." Elena maintained her carefully crafted expression of gratitude, even as her neural implant transmitted the entire conversation to Titan Command. "We look forward to that day, High Emissary. Your wisdom will guide our development." After the hegemony vessel departed, Elena met with Admiral Rodriguez in a secure, quantum-shielded chamber. "They bought it completely," she reported. "Every piece of surveillance data, every diplomatic interaction, every technological assessment, all confirming exactly what they expected to find." Rodriguez nodded, his expression grim. "And their invasion fleet, already assembling according to our deep space sensors. They'll wait a few years, letting their surveillance devices confirm our primitive status. Then they'll come in force, expecting an easy conquest. Instead, they'll find wolves in sheep's clothing." Rodriguez said softly. "Maintain surveillance protocols. Continue fleet expansion. When they return, we'll show them what humanity is truly capable of." In the vast shipyards hidden throughout the solar system, humanity's true fleet continued to grow. Each vessel was a masterpiece of deception, appearing as simple metal and plastic to conventional sensors, while housing technology that operated on principles the hegemony had never imagined. The trap was set, and the hunters had no idea they were about to become the hunted. The hegemony invasion fleet materialized at the edge of the solar system, exactly where humanity's predictive AIs had calculated they would. 300 crystalline warships, their hulls gleaming with weaponized energy matrices, emerged from hyperspace in perfect attack formation. To their sensors, the solar system appeared virtually defenseless. A handful of primitive patrol ships, basic orbital installations, and antiquated defense satellites. In Titan Command, Admiral Rodriguez watched the holographic display with calm determination. "All commands. Initiate Protocol Omega. Authorization Code Shadow 7 Delta." Throughout the solar system, humanity's hidden quantum fold infrastructure activated. Surveillance drones that had been monitoring the hegemony's approach transmitted their final data packets and self-destructed, leaving no trace of their existence. High Commander Zexthor stood on the bridge of the hegemony flagship Eternal Dominion, his crystalline form radiating confidence. "Send the standard ultimatum," he ordered. "Give them one planetary rotation to surrender." The message boomed across all frequencies. Primitive civilization, your development period has ended. Submit to hegemony authority or face immediate extinction. Your technology and resources will be harvested for the greater glory of the eternal empire. In lunar orbit, Captain Sarah Chen sat in the neural interface chamber of the ESS Nightweaver. Her consciousness merged with the ship's quantum AI. Through their combined awareness, she could sense the entire battlefield across multiple dimensional planes. They're deploying exactly as the simulations predicted, she reported through the quantum network. Their arrogance makes them predictable. The hegemony fleet began their advance, spreading out in their classic sphere of dominance formation. Their sensors showed Earth's pitiful defense forces scrambling in disarray. Primitive vessels attempting to form defensive lines that would be brushed aside with contemptuous ease. No response to our ultimatum, Zexthor's second-in-command reported. These primitives choose extinction. Begin the harvest, Zexthor commanded, his voice tinged with boredom. This would be his 300th conquest, and they all proceeded the same way. The first indication that something was wrong came when the hegemony's frontline vessels fired their primary weapons. The devastating energy beams that had destroyed countless civilizations passed harmlessly through their targets, which flickered and vanished. Holograms. Zexthor's crystalline form vibrated with confusion. Where are their real ships? Multiple quantum distortions detected. His sensor officer screamed. Energy signatures unlike anything in our database. Space itself seemed to fold open around the hegemony fleet. Where there had been empty void, hundreds of Earth vessels suddenly existed, their hulls black as deep space, their forms defying conventional geometry. They had been there all along, hidden in quantum-folded space, waiting for this moment. Admiral Rodriguez's voice echoed across all frequencies, transmitted through quantum entanglement channels the hegemony couldn't block. Attention hegemony forces. You were warned 3 billion years ago about the dangers of hubris. You should have heeded that warning. The battle that followed would be studied for centuries to come. The hegemony's crystalline ships, for all their fearsome appearance, were relics of a stagnant technological philosophy. They fired energy weapons that Earth's quantum field generators simply redirected into parallel dimensions. They attempted to raise shields that were bypassed by weapons operating on principles their sensors couldn't even detect. Captain Chen led the first strike wave, her consciousness linked with both her ship and the battle network. The Nightweaver moved like a living thing, predicting and countering hegemony maneuvers before they even began. Other Earth ships followed, their neural-linked crews fighting with perfect coordination, their quantum-fold drives allowing them to appear and disappear at will. Impossible. Zexthor raged as another squadron of his ships was disabled by weapons that seemed to ignore the laws of physics as he understood them. They were primitive. We saw their technology. You saw what we wanted you to see, Rodriguez's voice replied calmly. While you were watching our primitive fusion drives, we were studying your every weakness. Your surveillance devices showed you exactly what we wanted them to show. Your diplomatic missions saw what we wanted them to see. The hegemony fleet attempted to retreat, but found their hyperspace drives wouldn't engage. Earth's quantum fold technology had created a dimensional lock around the entire battle zone. For the first time in millions of years, the eternal hegemony faced not just defeat, but complete military humiliation. In a desperate gambit, Zexthor ordered his remaining ships to concentrate fire on Earth itself. If we can't have this system, we'll sterilize it. But the massive energy barrage never reached its target. Instead, it encountered a planetary defense shield unlike anything the hegemony had ever seen. A quantum field that didn't just block their weapons, but reflected them back with perfect precision. Dozens of hegemony ships were destroyed by their own fire. This is your only warning, Rodriguez announced as Earth's fleet moved into final attack position. Surrender now, and we'll spare your crews. Continue fighting, and you'll learn just how much technology we've been hiding. The Battle of Seoul, as it would come to be known, lasted less than 6 hours. When it was over, the mighty hegemony invasion fleet had been reduced to scattered debris and disabled vessels. Earth's casualties were minimal. Their quantum prediction networks had allowed them to choreograph the entire battle down to the smallest detail. As Chen watched Hegemony crew members being evacuated from their crippled ships, she felt a mix of satisfaction and sadness. They never stood a chance, she commented to her ship's eye. Their greatest weakness wasn't their technology. It was their inability to imagine that someone could surpass them. In Titan Command, Admiral Rodriguez was already preparing for the next phase. The Hegemony wouldn't take this defeat lightly. They would return with everything they had. But humanity was ready. The quantum fold drives were spooled up, the neural link networks were operational, and Earth's fleet was prepared to take the fight directly to Hegemony space. The storm had broken, and the galaxy would never be the same. News of the Hegemony's defeat spread through their empire like a shockwave. In the crystalline halls of the Imperial Palace on Centauri Prime, the Eternal Council gathered in an emergency session for the first time in 10,000 years. Their perfect order, maintained through millions of years of technological superiority, had been shattered by a species they had dismissed as primitive. Meanwhile, Earth's fleets were already on the move. Captain Sarah Chen, now commanding the advanced carrier ESS Prometheus, led the first strike force into Hegemony space. Her neural link hummed with data as her consciousness merged not just with her ship, but with the entire battle group's quantum network. Multiple Hegemony signatures detected in the Arcturus sector, her AI partner reported. They're trying to establish a defensive line. The Hegemony had gathered over 1,000 ships to stop humanity's advance. Under normal circumstances, it would have been an overwhelming force. But as Chen's fleet emerged from quantum-folded space, the outcome was already decided. Attention Hegemony forces. Chen broadcast on all frequencies. Your empire's age of dominance is over. Surrender now and join us in building something better. The response came in the form of a massive energy barrage that Chen's ships simply phased through, the attacks passing harmlessly into parallel dimensions. The counterstrike was precisely calculated. Quantum torpedoes that bypassed shields, neural-linked fighters that moved with impossible precision, and dimensional weapons that the Hegemony's sensors couldn't even detect. But it wasn't just a military victory. As the battle raged, humanity's quantum AI networks were broadcasting the truth throughout Hegemony space, detailed records of their empire's atrocities, proof of their technological stagnation, and evidence that their claimed superiority was built on suppressing innovation rather than achieving it. On Proxima II, a world that had been under Hegemony control for 50,000 years, the indigenous population watched in amazement as their crystalline overlords' defenses crumbled before invisible attacks. When Chen's Marines quantum shifted into the planetary control centers, they found the local resistance already in control. We've been waiting for this moment for generations, the resistance leader, a being of pure energy named Zara, told Chen. The Hegemony kept us divided, convinced us that their technology was the only path to advancement. You've shown us there are other ways. Admiral Rodriguez, coordinating the campaign from the newly commissioned ESS Vanguard, watched as system after system broke free from Hegemony control. Their entire empire was built on the assumption that their way was the only way forward, he observed to his staff. Once that assumption was broken, the whole structure began to collapse. But the Hegemony hadn't survived for millions of years by being completely inflexible. In their desperation, they began deploying weapons they had kept sealed away. Ancient technologies deemed too dangerous to use. Time dilation bombs that aged their targets thousands of years in seconds. Reality warping fields that turned space itself into a weapon. Nanite swarms that could devour entire planets. Dr. Wong, working from his quantum research facility on Mars, had anticipated this. Their forbidden weapons are still based on the same fundamental principles, he explained to the Defense Council. Different applications, but the same underlying technology. We've already developed countermeasures. The turning point came at the Battle of Antares. The Hegemony committed their entire reserve fleet, over 5,000 ships, armed with their most devastating weapons. They expected to face a similarly sized human fleet. Instead, they found themselves fighting an enemy they couldn't even see properly, as Earth's ships shifted between dimensions, struck from impossible angles, and coordinated with inhuman precision through their neural networks. But humanity's greatest victory wasn't military, it was diplomatic. As news of the hegemony's defeats spread, other subjugated species began to rise up. The quantum collective of Vega, the dimensional weavers of Sirius, the energy beings of Procyon. Civilizations that had been forced to adopt hegemony technology began developing their own paths, often with Earth's assistance. "We're not here to replace one empire with another," Chen explained to a gathering of resistance leaders. "We're here to show that there are infinite paths to advancement, that technology can evolve in countless ways. The hegemony's greatest crime wasn't their conquest, it was forcing the galaxy into a single, stagnant mold." As the campaign entered its final phase, humanity's true achievement became clear. They hadn't just developed superior technology. They had created a completely new paradigm of civilization. The quantum fold drives, neural link systems, and dimensional engineering weren't just military assets. They were the foundation of a new way of life, one that embraced diversity and continuous innovation. In the ruins of another fallen hegemony fortress, Chen found an ancient database containing records of their first conquests, millions of years ago. They'd really believed they were doing the galaxy a favor, she told her AI partner. They thought by enforcing their version of progress, they were creating perfect order. And instead, they created perfect stagnation. The AI responded, "A reminder that true strength comes from adaptation and change, not rigid adherence to a single path." The liberation of the galaxy continued, system by system, world by world. But it wasn't just a campaign of conquest. It was a revolution in thought, a fundamental shift in how civilizations viewed progress and development. The age of the hegemony was ending, and something new, something far more dynamic, was taking its place. The crystalline spires of Centauri Prime, capital of the hegemony for millions of years, shimmered in the light of its triple suns. But now, those same spires bore witness to something unprecedented, the end of an empire that had thought itself eternal. Admiral Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the ESS Vanguard, studying the massive holographic display showing the final battle unfolding across multiple dimensional planes. The remnants of the hegemony's once mighty fleet had gathered here for their last stand, defending their throne world with every weapon and secret they had left. "They've activated the Stellar Archive," Captain Chen reported from the Prometheus, her consciousness linked seamlessly with her ship and the battle network. "They're trying to deploy first-era technology." The Stellar Archive, the hegemony's most closely guarded secret, contained technologies from the earliest days of their empire, weapons so powerful they had been sealed away for millions of years. As the archive opened, reality itself seemed to shudder. Space-time distortion weapons, consciousness disruption fields, and entropy acceleration beams, the kinds of weapons that had earned the hegemony their empire in the first place. But humanity had prepared for this moment. Dr. Wang's quantum research teams had spent years studying the ancient warning beacons data, developing countermeasures for even the most devastating first-era weapons. As the hegemony unleashed their full arsenal, Earth's fleet responded with technologies that operated on entirely different principles. "They still don't understand," Chen observed as she watched another wave of ancient weapons dissolve harmlessly against quantum probability fields. "They think this is just about technological superiority. They haven't grasped that we've changed the rules of reality itself." The battle for Centauri Prime lasted 3 days, but its outcome was never in doubt. Humanity's neural-linked ships danced through dimensional space, striking from angles that shouldn't have existed. Quantum fold drives allowed them to be everywhere and nowhere, while predictive AI networks anticipated and countered every hegemony strategy before it could be implemented. But the true victory came not from weapons, but from communication. Throughout the battle, Earth's quantum transmission network broadcast the truth to every world in hegemony space, the complete history of their empire, their suppression of alternative technologies, and most importantly, the possibility of a different future. In the crystalline throne room of the Eternal Council, Supreme Overlord Vexthor watched his empire crumble. How? He demanded as Earth's forces quantum shifted through his last defenses. How did primitives achieve this? Admiral Rodriguez, materializing in the throne room through a quantum fold portal, provided the answer. Because we never stopped questioning, never stopped innovating, never believed that any single path was the only way forward. Your empire's greatest weakness wasn't your technology. It was your certainty that you had nothing left to learn. The surrender of the hegemony marked not just the end of an empire, but the beginning of something unprecedented. Representatives from thousands of formerly subjugated species gathered on Earth for the first Galactic Congress. The crystalline halls of the old hegemony were repurposed into research centers where different species could develop their own unique technological paths. Dr. Wong, speaking to the Congress, summed up humanity's vision. The universe is infinite in its possibilities. No single species, no single approach can encompass all of them. True advancement comes not from enforcing uniformity, but from embracing diversity. The quantum commonwealth was born from this principle. Unlike the hegemony's rigid hierarchy, it was a fluid network of civilizations, each free to develop in their own way while sharing knowledge and resources. Humanity's neural link technology evolved into a galactic communication network that allowed instantaneous sharing of ideas across vast distances while preserving the unique perspectives of each species. Captain Chen, watching the transformation from the observation deck of the Prometheus, reflected on how far they had come. The ancient warning beacon that had started everything now sat in a museum on Earth, its purpose fulfilled in ways its creators could never have imagined. We didn't just defeat an empire, she told her AI partner. We proved that the path forward isn't about finding the one right way to progress. It's about creating space for infinite possibilities. The former hegemony species, freed from millions of years of technological stagnation, began developing in unexpected ways. The crystalline beings who had once been the empire's ruling class discovered they could evolve their forms in ways their rigid traditions had never allowed. Former slave races developed technologies that operated on principles the hegemony had dismissed as impossible. Admiral Rodriguez, retiring from active service, gave one final address to the Defense Council. Our victory wasn't winning a war. It was proving that the universe is big enough for every species to find its own path. The real dawn of this new era isn't in the technologies we've created, but in the possibilities we've unleashed. As humanity looked to the future, they knew that challenges remained. Other ancient empires might lurk in the darkness between galaxies, other threats might emerge. But they faced these possibilities not with fear or arrogance, but with the confidence that came from knowing that true strength lay not in enforcing the single vision of progress, but in embracing the infinite diversity of possible futures. The ancient warning beacon had served its purpose, but not in the way its creators had intended. Instead of warning of a threat to be feared, it had become a catalyst for transformation, a reminder that even the most seemingly insurmountable empires could fall not to superior force, but to superior imagination. And somewhere in the vast quantum networks that now connected the galaxy, the inherited knowledge of countless civilizations began to merge and evolve, creating something entirely new, a future where the only constant was change itself, and where every new discovery led not to stagnation, but to even greater possibilities.